Right.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to In the Zone. I'm your host, Garrison Roy, and today we're going to have a full-length, very, very special interview. But if you're new to the podcast, we have different types of zones or segments, if you will. I have rants where I kind of go and vent, discuss some hot topics, call out some BS in the industry, anything that's kind of on my mind. And you also have the mental minutes, which are quick mental game hacks to help elevate your performance, either as a player or coach. And then also educational explorations going into different zones, whether it's skill acquisition of being in the zone of pitching or maybe hitting pitches in the zone, right? Whatever it might be to help learn a little bit more about the game, progress the game forward is what we're all about. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get right into this one. We have Matt Silvera, former uh, guy that I used to be around, coach, but now he's still pursuing that career and also owns Berserk Performance. Also chase the kickboxing a little bit too, right? And then you're also studying to be a psychologist, right? So that's a lot of hats that you got going on there. But Matt, appreciate you coming on.
Oh man, I appreciate you having me, Gary. Yeah, dude, it's an honor. It's gonna be great to catch up with you, bro. And I'm excited to get it going.
Yes, sir. Well, I will give you a biggest compliment, I guess, for all those listening. If you don't know Matt, he's a very personable dude and probably one of the few athletes whenever I was coaching uh, at Tread at the time that would just actually ask how I was doing. Because I'm usually the one asking other players, like, hey, how does your arm feel? How does this feel? How's that going on? But he kind of flipped the script a little bit. And I was like, dude, I appreciate you for doing that because there's a lot of days in the facility that kind of get grueling and you're
Yeah.
always giving, 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 but no one ever really gives back. So it was really, really great thing to be a part of. But that is part of, not even just players' mental game, but coaches' mental game. I think it goes a long way to know
Mhm.
that, you're valued as a person, even outside of the sport that you coach.
Mhm. Yeah, dude, 100%. The environment that you're in is a high stress environment. There's more and more responsibility, like being piled up on you. And it's like very easy to see how people, not only athlete but coaches were getting like overwhelmed. So it's just like, hey man, like you can go out of like your own just day to day just to check in like how people are doing. 'Cause at the end of the day, like you want to give like regard to the person rather than like, well, how does this person serve me? You want this like symbiotic relationship. So
Absolutely.
yeah, dude. Yeah, just wanted to be there for you, man. You're a good dude, cared, and you showed a lot of care for myself and everybody else. So like, why not?
Absolutely. Well, it's part of like, hey, treat others the way you want to be treated. You can use that,
Mhm.
parable of how you really go about life. But I want to
Mhm.
talk a little bit about your experience, and we talked a little bit off air about like how identity was being rooted in the sport versus actually knowing who you were as a person. And I think that's a very almost other type of like mental pandemic, if you will, right?
Mhm.
Of guys in any sport, but more particularly in baseball, because that does define them or they introduce themselves as, oh, I'm a baseball player. Oh, I'm a baseball
Mhm.
coach, right? But
Mhm.
kind of let's talk about some identity and your experience with that.
Sure, dude. And it's something you see like really common, especially with athletes, like all sports. But when you start at a sport at a young age, especially as a kid, like you start getting like these successes and failures as you like go on into like playing the sport, right? So it's really easy to like root your worth into something that gives you like this short-term like gratifying like feeling. So you go, you play a baseball game, you pitch, you strike everybody out, you hit your first home run. It's like, wow, I feel great. This is exactly what I should like tie my identity and worth into because I'm getting such like immediate and like short term like positive like emotion from training and whatnot. So it's like training and playing and everything. So it's very easy to like stake like who you are as a person and what you do rather than what you are. And so as like you continue to grow, like little league to high school to college, like the stakes just get higher and also the rewards get like greater. So it's like you make varsity for the first year, you get selected for the all-star team, you get a college scholarship, you get signed or drafted, and that's like something that's tangible for you to like tie your identity into. But the thing is, it's like when you marry your identity or intertwine your identity and like the fortunes of life, such as power, money, status, honor. Those are things that you can't control. You can do your best to like maximize your opportunity of those things, going up. But at the end of the day, those things will go up and down, and so will your, the way you feel about yourself. will go up and down. It's like this idea called the wheel of fortune. So it's you'll have like this very volatile kind of like sense of yourself where it's just like, oh, I'm on cloud nine, everything's going great. I just got signed. This D1 wants me, whatever, to you're sitting on the bench, you get cut from your indie ball team, whatever, and it's like, I'm worthless.
Mm.
I don't know who I am or what I am anymore. And, the more positive like emotions and feelings and validation that you get for the thing that you do, the easier it is to like, stake more of your identity into that rather than like other aspects of who you are. So kind of like just fragments you as like a whole person, as a whole being, and makes it easier just for you to like, hey, I am just this one slice of the pie. But
Sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and you kind of alluded to that when you have that early success on in life and
Mhm.
you enjoy that feeling of succeeding at something, right? Whether it's a home run or, striking a guy out. You want to kind of continue to have those same types of feelings, right? And kind of the basis of being in the zone. Like I enjoyed being locked in and being like so
Right.
focused and, trying to replicate that in other portions of my life too is like, hey, like this is not who I am, but like this is a great way of how you can pursue greatness.
Mhm.
Like you said, if you tie that to who you are, you're missing the whole pie versus just being focused on the one piece, right?
Right.
Like it's
Yeah.
almost like as if you're eating a dinner, right? And you're saying, oh, this side dish is really, really awesome. But you forget about the main course and the other sides with that. But you're all you did was just eat that one side and be like, hey, well, how's everything else?
Exactly. Like how sustainable is it to eat that one side? You're missing out on all the other nutrients and like the experiences from like, the steaks, the grains, the drinks. So it's analogous to life as well. And like another thing is like it's really easy to continue staking your identity and like your success or failure in your sport because the validation or lack thereof externally, right? So it's like people there's other aspects of you that are hard to understand by people because you're a complex being just by nature. But the thing that you do is like easily and like broadly understandable by others. So it's like, someone's friend's dad will be like, oh man, Jimmy, you're a really great pitcher. Wow, you must work really hard. So they'll also like attribute like other characteristics, other positive characteristics or virtuous characteristics to you towards your like, sport and the thing that you do. So then it's like, well, Jimmy's or whoever's dad, like I can't really explain to you that I'm also X, Y, and Z as a person, and that like makes me up or fulfills me greater than just this one sport. But yeah, dude, like it's so common for people just to like root their identity in like the thing that they do rather than who they are, because like the thing that they do is like more easily understandable and explainable towards others. So like if you're always like seeking validation externally, well, dude, like you are also like subject to like the variance of the time of like how people will perceive you. So you're subject to people's perceptions to determine your worth versus like something that stays within you and that you can like perceive yourself as being worthy or not. But yeah.
Oh, absolutely. No, and you can't control people's perceptions, right? Like
Exactly.
that's a losing game no matter what. If you're trying to continue to just seek that validation through other people's point of view of who you are, what you do, right? Like you have it all the time in just general small talk. He's like, "Oh, what do you do for work?" Well, I do this. And they try
Right.
to already kind of like I guess, compartmentalize you or be like, oh, depending on what your job is your socioeconomical status. And then,
Right.
then they
Right.
trickles down from there to see
Yeah.
like, oh, hey, how do I treat this guy? Is he just
Right.
an average Joe like me, or is he someone that like I should take seriously because he makes a lot of money? Or this
Mhm.
guy's a bum, has no idea what he's doing with his life. Like they just automatically kind of like write you off just from
Yeah.
that one quick interaction in the first 10 seconds, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Like well said, dude. Like that's the problem with like categorically thinking. You put
Yeah.
people in these boxes and it's like, oh, I can like summarize what type of person that you are just from like these like few small interactions and like things that you say you engage with. And that's like does such a disservice of like getting to actually know the person because you rob them of like so much depth and the depth of their experiences. So it's like both a disservice to you and to them. But like, and I'm sure, not I'm sure, I know we've both like struggled with this in like our own like lives and journeys where it's just like you go through transitional stages in your life and you're like, well, who am I now that I'm not, in this role or I'm not doing this thing or I'm not doing it in the way that I, envisioned it, right? So it's like you
Sure.
can talk about you and like how you transition through like from different jobs, like being at Tread, starting up Inked with Rob. Congrats, by the way. That's awesome, dude.
I appreciate you.
Starting the podcast, doing all those things, like, even my own journey where it's just like starting off as a baseball player, I rooted like a huge like chunk of my identity there. And I did like made the same mistake with the same downfalls into like martial arts and Muay Thai and kickboxing. And, just kind of like transitioning and like learning how to do something without it becoming you, but still doing so in a way which you like pursue it with like great like passion and effort.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think it's one thing where I always have this recurring quote of, hey, how you do one thing is how you do everything, right?
Hmm.
It's not, you got to disassociate the identity of you being like only identified in that sport, but like, hey, if I'm going to go hard in this one thing, I'm going to go do that at every single thing I do, whether it's relationship, Muay Thai
Mhm.
or school, right? Whatever it is you're doing, you're going to be that dude that's just going to grind, get shit done, right? We're going to be able to go in and, just hard nose whatever you need to do. Like sometimes that in itself is an identity, but you also need to, I hate to use the word balance because there never really is true, 50-50 balance, because if you're trying to be great at something, there's going to be an influx of one thing, but obviously you need to be able to take your foot off the gas, stop at the stoplight, look around at the scenery for a little bit, and then accelerate too whenever you're
No,
ready.
100%. And I think you like alluded to something like pretty good, where it's just like the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right?
Yeah,
And so that can also be a way to like, do some introspection, reflect on like your downfalls, right? So if
sure.
the motivations in which and like why I do something is like, I'm doing this so people will receive me in X, Y, and Z way, and you're not doing it for yourself. And then you apply this broadly to every endeavor that you take into, you can kind of see like, oh, why am I having the same like failings and downfalls, like repeating time after time after time in different circumstances and like scenarios, right? But yeah, dude, is it cool if I like just touch on like my own journey and like kind of how
Dude,
this
yeah,
like
I was
evolved
actually
and
going to transition
transpired?
to that as far as like really just how you ended up, well, how when we crossed paths, but before then and then leading up to, our short sliver of time together and then beyond that.
Sweet. Yeah, of course, dude. Yeah, so I've played baseball my whole life. I grew up in a baseball family. Like my dad, brother, uncle, they all played professionally. So it was like something that was like ingrained in like my upbringing and the culture. Like baseball was something that you didn't just do, but it was like it became a part of you. So even from a young age, it was something that was like more than just an activity. It was like I said, it was a part of like who I was. And it couldn't really
Through the bloodline
conceive.
too, which is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, great line, dude. But yeah, it's hard to conceive like myself without like the sport. And so like I grew up with like that idea, like from Little League to high school and whatnot. And I wasn't very good at baseball too, which was like tough. Like growing up, where like I really fucking sucked, dude, just to be like flat out honest. Like I was bad. And like that was it was a hard thing for me to grapple with because like so many people in my family like were very good at it and I was just like the runt of the family when it came to the sport. And like that affected my own self-esteem, or it was just like
Hmm.
from a young age, I was like, okay, if I want to be worth anything, if I want to be loved, if I want to be, a good person, I must be a professional baseball player. And then here I am just like walking the house and like going 0 for 4, like in little league and shit. I'm like, God damn, dude, this I have a long ways to go. But like it started from like a early age, just like my identity rooted in like the game as well as like my own self-worth. And so, in high school, I wasn't very good. I barely made, the JV team my freshman year. And I was just, working my ass off. It was one of those things that I was like, you know what? Like I know I'm not that as good as all the other players, but I'm gonna have to just outwork everybody, which is great. I developed like this virtue of like discipline. And I worked my ass off. I got a starting spot. I did well my freshman year on JV. I made varsity my junior year. I didn't play, and I was like an emotional wreck because I was still like taking like the same idea where it's just my my worthiness as a person is rooted in the success or failure that I have in this game. In my junior year, I got like a not too many at bats. I hit 100. I didn't have a starting spot, and I was depressed. I was angry. I was
Mhm.
resentful. I would tell myself like, man, I'm better than everybody. Why am I not playing? Even though the results didn't show. Um, I, would just try to like keep like outworking everyone without like, progress or like success to like the game. And I was just like in this like negative spiral where like not only the way that I felt about like myself was like just this negative, like you're not good enough, you have to do more, what turned from like this discipline, the virtue of discipline turned into like this negative, obsessive, compulsive, like you're never good enough. You have to keep going, you have to keep working. And that could be a positive thing in some sense, but it could also turn into this negative spiral. But like that was like my view of myself is like no matter what you do, you're never going to be good enough. Even if I got a hit or I walked something off, it was just like, well, it was a walk-off single, should have been a walk-off double. You know what I'm saying? So it's just
Yeah. There's a
always like,
there's a fine line between being self-critical and um, trying to fill in your holes of your game and just completely beating yourself up. And I
yeah,
walked that line way too often and crossed it several times too. We're
yeah.
all guilty of it, but it's good that we reflect back and we realize that and I'm like, wow, okay, I was probably my biggest enemy out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you
Oh,
had
yeah.
that mindset of the world's against me, really you were subconsciously against you.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. You become so tunnel vision in this one thing, you don't see like all the other aspects of life that'll actually help you be better at the thing, but also just help you be better in general. So high school was just this whole journey for me where I was just writing these like highs and lows, these ups and downs. I'd have a good year, I'd have a bad year. And then the way I felt about myself and other people was like dependent upon like my success in the game. My junior year when I sucked, I hated everybody. I hated myself and I hated the world. My senior year when I did great, I was the most inspirational, positive dude. I was like, you know what? You bring out positive things, man. It comes back to you, hippie
Yeah.
vibe like that. And yeah, dude, like I had no control. Like I lost control of like my own life because like I put it in something external instead of something internal. And then, I go into like college and whatnot, and I'm not doing well in baseball either. They turned me into a pitcher, like, hey, dude, you can't hit. And I threw kind of hard, but I got hurt like pretty quick. And from there, I get cut from like my junior college baseball team. And I'm like, damn, dude, like I'm not good enough to play baseball anymore. Like that's what this said. Holy shit. And it was kind of like a rude awakening for myself. And it was just, it was like, oh, who am I without this game? I decided to train at driveline baseball for a year and
Mhm.
I got better. I threw 90, so on and so forth. That was awesome. I got some, junior college interest, was going to go to junior college. But then a few months later, just training on my own, like I blew out my elbow and I was back in like this dark, sunken place again. And I say all this because like the injuries and everything that I've had quite a few injuries was, I'd say like directly related to like the internal state I was motivated by. And it was like that same state my junior year where it's just like nothing I do is good enough. I'm never good enough. I have to keep working was the same thing that, I did like when I blew out and whatnot. And like what it did is like it took me out of my body. It took me away from like my intuition, from listening to my conscience because like what was motivating me was this anxious like voice, this anxious impulse where it's just like, hey dude, like you're not good enough. If you want to be like seen as worthy or good enough or loved by other people, you got to keep working, you got to keep going. So like I would like ignore like warning signs with my arm, my elbow would flare up and I'd be like, I'll just throw through it. I would like ruminate in like my bed all day, like just working on dry reps, like thinking about how I could like get a 1% tweak on my little mechanics to get better. And like it would take away from like, bigger things. Like I wouldn't sleep well, I wouldn't like eat well, like my time management was all screwed up. The things that I'd engage in, like even with baseball, like I made my whole identity baseball because I thought like, my perception of myself was like, I'm not good enough to have a life outside of baseball. So everything I have to do is like has to be centered around baseball. So like my relationship sucked. I became a very one-dimensional person. And the pressure I put on myself was immense because there was no break from like the thing that I was engaging with. Like baseball became more than what it actually is, which was some game that I enjoyed to play and I enjoyed being good at. It became like this all-encompassing, entity that would like tell me whether I was like worthy of like, being a good human living or not. So it was like this really tough journey and like it really informed like a lot of like these you know, actions that I took as well as like the motivations behind the actions. So yeah, dude, that was like boom, I rehab from the surgeries. I'm just like following the same cycle over and over again. Like when things are bad, I got this nasty negative aura. I hate the world and everybody in it. When things are good, oh man, life's good. You're great. I love you, brother. So on and so forth. Right. So I take about this 2-year rehab for like I had a UCL repair, went in again for like a scar tissue debridement, and COVID hit. And this is a funny one, like Gary. COVID hit, the world is shut down. Like in my like little garage, I built a little gym. My friends and I built a mound. Shout out to Braden and Charlie and Max.
Love those
And we were
guys.
like, yeah, dude, it was a great time. Like we were just I think I'm the only person to say it was a great time during COVID. But we were just like lifting with like 2 dumbbells in the garage, like a barbell and like a freestand. We were like ripping plyos every day, and we're just like kind of getting after it. And it was nice because we could detach from like all these pressures that were put on us. And we all had like this similar, struggle where it's just like, hey, like I am only as worthy as I am successful. So it's like we're all chasing, trying to go to like a big D1. My friend Charlie was already at a D1. We're all chasing like the draft, and we're just like, yeah, once we get these things, this will validate our worth. But like COVID was this thing where it's like, hey man, like the world is shut down, like nobody's really looking, nobody's really caring, got all this time to train, everybody's in the same situation. So it's like able to like kind of like put like the mental brakes on, you know what I'm saying? Like get a little bit of
And
peace.
you can reset button too, right? It's like, oh hey, everybody's in the same boat, so we're all starting on the same playing field, so to speak. Once we get out on the other side of this thing, looking back, at the time we didn't think that. We were just like, all right, well, we're gonna fill our time with. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And like there was so much time to like engage in like different things, but I was still one track minded. Then all I was doing was training in baseball. That was what, like where my day was like built around. But you know what happens, Gary? What happens during COVID? You get on Tinder. That's what happens. You get
Boy, do you.
on, you get on Tinder and you start swiping. And I met this girl on here, and I liked her a lot. It was really cool. We ended up like talking, meeting up, and don't worry, this all ties in.
Love it. No, this is great.
And we ended up meeting up, and I was so nervous. We went on a first date. It goes well. I'm a nervous wreck, but it's fine and whatever. And like through meeting this girl, it exposed like more and more of like my unidimensionalness, right? Where I would have conversation with her and her friends, and I felt like, damn, all I can do is talk about baseball. Like every other aspect of my life that like makes me up, I don't feel confident enough in like talking about. I don't feel confident enough like engaging the conversation this way. Like I only feel like comfortable when it's like, oh yeah, ask me about my velo day, or ask me about like Giordano Ventura's mechanics, or how to like, increase your rate of force development. Like, yeah, I got you. But it's like, I kind of forgot what it is to be a human. And that was like, that was like a moment for me where I was like, oh shit, you know what? Like, this is a relationship that I'd like to like develop. This is something that's very meaningful to me. This is something that I enjoy a lot. And I've been like neglecting a lot of aspects of, what makes up Matt as a person. And that was kind of like an eye-opening moment. So like through like going out with this girl and hanging with her and whatnot, like I got like, and the circumstance of COVID, I was able to get out of my bubble because my whole life was revolving around baseball at that point, and kind of since high school, where it's like I'd wake up, I'd train, I'd go to school, I'd train again, I'd lift at night, and that's my day. I'd fucking eat the perfect macros and get my sleep and watch all these gifs of fucking mechanic videos, and I'll be like, yep, I'm gonna be a big leaguer. I got to keep doing this shit. Like, then I'll be okay. Like, it was always, once I become this thing, then I can figure out all these other aspects in life, like such as like, how do I interact socially? What other aspects of my personality do I want to develop? Like, what other things interest me? Do I like the arts? Do I like, ideas and thoughts, and so on and so forth? I was like, I'll figure that out later when I become a big leaguer. Right now, this is the only thing that matters because I have such a small window. And that was actually like super negative because that obsession, honestly, like gave me such tunnel vision. Like it didn't allow me to see all these other things that would have helped me more, just like as a baseball player, but more importantly in life. So, that exposed like where I was like really lacking. And I went out and fucking just became like a different person essentially. So like I'd go out, which I'd never go out before. I let loose a little bit, started like partying a bit, and nothing like insane or crazy, but I allowed myself to get out of my bubble, and I saw like, hey, you know what? Like the looser I I think about it as an egg, right? You have an egg in your hand, it's a fertile egg, let's say, it can hatch. The grip I had on it was so tight that the egg was cracking. And by like letting go of the reins of control and like allowing myself to engage in different things I was interested in, like my grip became the super tight, cracking the egg to loose enough to where it won't fall, but still tight enough to where it's providing the egg with like stability and warmth. And like that was like, all right, I'm going to explore all these other things that I denied myself of because I said again the way of baseball, which is so important to do because like again, you make one small part of your identity your whole life, you're doing such a disservice to like the complete and individual unique being that you are. Um, so yeah, dude, like that happened. The girl was like, "Deuces, dude, you're kind of fucking immature and weird. See ya."
All you talk about is
Yeah,
baseball and training.
yeah. All you do is talk about baseball and training. What about me? Yeah,
Yeah.
no, exactly. And no, it was cool. It was like this. It was a big catalyst for change because I was like, damn, I didn't want to lose that. Um, and now I'm exposed with like being this unidimensional person. Like, yeah, let me see like who am I? Who am I without this sport and or beyond this sport? So this that little like it was like a situationship. So like I couldn't call it a breakup, but for a breakup for a better sense of the term, that led me to like, hey, you know what? I want to understand myself better and others better. So I kind of went down the route of psychology. So I was in school at the time, I was in community college, but I was like, you know what? Still dealing with some arm issues for my elbow. I'm gonna go train at Tread, and where I met you guys and
Yeah.
everything.
No, for sure.
At the same time, like I'm gonna like learn in my own volition, take a year off school, and just figure out like all the things that I want to do. So like I started like just going on YouTube, watching like little Jordan Peterson lectures, Robert Sapolsky,
Oh
reading a
yeah.
lot of books. And like that was kind of like my start, like getting into like psychology. I really like personality theory, or getting interested in the field. I started writing myself and like just posting it. Like I just posted on like my Snapchat, just like different ideas and thoughts I'd have, and people would start like engaging. And then I was like, it pretty much said like everything that interests me, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna give it a try. And it was pretty cool because like it carved out time for things like outside of baseball, but I still, I'd move to North Carolina with you guys. I'd come into the facility. I'd train there for however long, 3 to 5 hours each day. And then I had, I wasn't working or anything at the time. I was like driving Uber Eats. I had all this other like time in the day to like explore the things that I was always curious about. So I'd researched psychology. I ended up like, trying to learn fucking little dance moves in my like shitty ass hotel I was staying in, like a little extended stay. Just like little small things. And then like bigger things. I was like, you know what? Like I started like training kickboxing in 2019, but not seriously. I was like, you know what? Like I want to, get back into like kickboxing and Muay Thai. This is something I'm curious about. So started looking for other gyms, started training like seriously, like Muay Thai, trying to make an MMA debut, all that shit. I was like going hard into like my psychology stuff, reading a lot of philosophy, and I was like, okay, I'm like satisfying multiple masters. Like, I'm not afraid of, you know, going and venturing outside of baseball anymore. Like, I can have other physical and athletic pursuits and be okay. Like, hey, this isn't going to fuck up my chances of becoming a big leaguer. Even if it does, it's okay because like this is something that I deem like worth it at this point in my life. You know, I could interact in an intellectual space where I can like go into like philosophy and psychology, and then even in a creative space where I can create my own ideas and thoughts and interact with people. I was going out, going on dates and shit. And like I was like a super anxious, nervous person. So like it was like always hard for me to like uh, go on those like first dates and
Get over
everything. But
that. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so like, I was doing all those things to kind of like reopen, like, hey, or like take my, little look in the mirror. It's like you are more than just this baseball player. You're more than this unidimensional being. You just have to like, water those different plants of all the things that you are. And I started like getting like this healthier perspective of who I am and what I'm about, and knowing I wasn't just the one thing that I did. And like, yeah, dude, I met you, met Ben, I met all the guys from Tread, Rob, And it was a really cool and like positive environment there at Tread, especially when it was like small and like low key, like because
1.0
like
is definitely a great environment for sure.
yeah, dude, 1.0 was fucking sick. But you had people that really cared. You know, we only had like a few athletes at the time when training in house, like when I was there. Um, but like you, for example, you were the guy that was on the floor all the time. You know, guys would be back there on their computers and doing their remote shit. But it was just always like you trying to like be there, give someone a helping hand, you know, and not only just as like a coach to like an athlete for like I'm gonna help you with your mechanics or your lifts or whatnot, but just like as an individual, you're like, hey man, what's going on? How's your life? You took the extra time to get to know the athlete, and that's I think like people don't understand how important that is in like in coaching like athlete relationship where it's just like you can have the best program in the world, you could like have all the clout and the hype and have someone like super bought in to the training. But if you don't have that person like bought into like who you are as a person, like there's going to be some like missing links and missing keys there. And it was really nice because like yeah, dude, like I moved all the way from like SoCal to North Carolina. I was alone by myself, just like going my
Yeah,
little
it can
hero's
get
journey.
lonely, and like your only
Exactly.
interaction is at a training facility or at a gym. It gets very shallow, and I like how you kind of just cut it off to quit it being so shallow too. Like probably it was symbiotic, I guess, in our conversations, but more like, okay, hey, like, what else are you doing here in North Carolina? Like, are you going out? Are you going to hiking spots, right? Like, there's other
Yeah.
things that you can do out here other than just come to this little, you know, 5,000 square foot 10 building, right? Like,
No, exactly. Yeah. And I remember like I just started writing like stuff on Snapchat. So I'd post something in my story, it'd be about some psychology topic, my thoughts on it, or something philosophical. And I remember like I was talking to you about that. Like, okay, cool, add me. And like you would engage with my content, you talk about it. And that was like really nice. It was really affirming, where it was just like because I was going through a very transitional period where I was like, my worth is tied into baseball. And I was still seeking external validation, but it was a means to a positive end where I was like, you know what, like there are positive things I can get out of, or whether it's helping people or just being like, validated in the sense that like, hey, dude, like there are other things about you, Matt, that are, worthwhile besides just you being good at throwing a ball. And that was like really positive. And that's like a testament to you taking like, the care. And I wasn't even like your athlete per se, but I was an athlete that trained there. But like,
yeah.
taking the time to care about the individual beyond the athlete. And like that was huge, dude. Like that just made me want to come into the tread more, made me want to engage with you more, made it easier to ask you questions and help me like in baseball. And then also made it easier to detach from baseball
Mhm.
and not having this thing, again, like control load over my life. So, I'm at Tread, I'm doing my thing, and I'm getting more and more into like, MMA and like Muay Thai and everything. And that becomes like the focal point of my life, funny enough. And I was like, it's like, man, fuck baseball, just something I do on the side.
Yeah. I remember having that conversation with you, and you come in just dead tired after training for some kickboxing. Like, bro, your CNS is fried. What you're going to be doing today, you need to just like go roll out and go in recovery mode. Maybe do some mobility stuff. Like that's probably extended to what any other physical activity you need, right?
Yeah, dude. No, no, yeah. I mean, to give some context, my day was like I'd wake up pretty late. I'd wake up at like 9 a.m. I'd go to train in the morning, kickboxing, come to tread. I'd either hit a lift or throw. Then I'd go back to we'd have like kickboxing training, or I'd have jujitsu at 4. I'd train no, yeah, jujitsu at 4 or 3 o'clock. I'd have like a striking 1-on-1, and then 8 p.m. I would have it's more like kickboxing. So I was training like 3 to 4 times every day for the most part. Jiu-jitsu like 3 to 4 times a week. Um, kickboxing, Muay Thai,
Do you
jits,
think there
and then
was just like, yeah, not to get too far off topic, do you think there were any overlaps to that? Like you learning all that stuff and learning more about your body kind of
oh,
also
100,
helped with baseball, even, without even really having that motive behind it?
100%, dude. Yeah, like I just became a better mover in general, like just better body awareness. Like I just had a better like just better body awareness. I knew where I was in space. Um, it also gave me confidence, which was like huge for like baseball and training. Like when I say like gave me confidence to like move in ways or try things that I never would before. because like I was so like married and anxious to, being successful in baseball. I was afraid to change. Right. So I was like,
Sure.
oh, I don't want to try this mechanical cue. I'm already touching 90. Well, if this makes me throw 86, well, if this tweaks my arm. Whereas like, dude, I'm sparring like weekly, daily, whatever the fuck it is. I'm rolling all the time. I'm like, well, I'm fucking putting my body through hell. Like I could try this mechanical tweak or, you know what I'm saying? So like, it gave me the confidence to like go out of like what I was comfortable with because I was engaging in something that was like serious and like pretty foreign to me. But yeah, dude, like it actually helped me a lot. Just from like a proprioception like standpoint, just like getting
Yeah.
better body awareness. And I'm sure there's some like fucking fascial or tendon gains from rotating that much, as well as just like hitting a heavy bag all the time. This, But
Wait, something there that, we could go down that rabbit hole. That's a whole nother podcast, probably.
no, exactly. But yeah, dude, at Tread, all that fighting takes like the what's it called, the main priority. And like I'm still struggling with my arm at this point at Tread. And I made the same mistake as I was in baseball with fighting, where my arm was struggling and I was like, damn, you know what, like I'm touching like 91 at that point, but my arm hurts when I throw, and I was having like these TOS symptoms. And I was like, fuck it, dude, I have fighting. Being a fighter is way cooler anyways. If I become a UFC fighter, that's what matters. So like, instead
Yeah.
of learning the lessons previously from baseball, I just shifted like the same motivations, the same attitudes, the same things that made me this anxious, unidimensional person into fighting. I rooted my identity into this next thing instead of like, ideally saying like, hey, these are just aspects of things that you do that express this whole unique person that you are. And so, I go to NIA the next year. I'm fighting and I'm playing baseball at the same damn time. And now it's like I have so much anxiety, dude, because I not only used to have to be a big leaguer, now I have to be the first person to play professional baseball and be a professional fighter, and that will
A lot of
make me,
self-inflicting pressure, yeah. Which just causes the
yeah,
anxiety sometimes too, I think.
no, exactly, dude. It's like these expectations I had for myself, you caused a lot of anxiety for myself because I was like, it wasn't just, oh, this would be a great goal to have and it'll be fun and like awesome if I could do. It was like, no, I have to do this because if I don't do this, like I have to achieve something so big, so grandiose for me to be like seen as worthy to the world. Then, then everybody will give me what I want in life and people will like me, enjoy me, and want to be around me instead of like by virtue of me just being the person I am. So I
Right.
made
If
the same
you don't do
mistakes in
that, you
fighting.
failed at life kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Did the same things in fightings. I got hurt a lot, bunch of concussions, racked it up because I didn't have like faith in myself. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm new to the sport. I have to take this fight immediately. And I'm coming off a concussion I sustained like in my first fight camp. And the doctor's like, hey, don't spar and not spar, I had to get hurt again. And they're like, hey, don't train for a week. And I'd be in the gym the next day, rattling my brain. And it was just like, I didn't trust myself. I didn't have enough faith in myself. I didn't believe that I was like good enough to like, yeah, I didn't believe I was good enough to like give rest, to give pause, to recover. I thought I had to like be reckless and I endangered myself and it was really stupid. But like that was just kind of like showing like the shift between or the lack there of the shift of like my identity was still being rooted in the things that I do rather than I was. So boom, I go to the doctor, fourth concussion, like, hey dude, you can't fight anymore. I was like,
Mm.
fuck, okay, let's have baseball. Pitched the season, didn't pitch too well. Threw hard though. That was kind of cool. But I blew out my shoulder at the end of the season. And this is 2022. And I'm like, I don't have fighting. I don't have baseball. I don't have anything to like stake my athletic identity into anymore. Who am I? What am I? What am I going to do? And it was tough because I was going through a lot of like copes and I was trying to delude myself. I was like trying to find different niche sports that I could attach my identity to. Where I was like, you know what, I'm going to be a bobsledder. And then I can make the Olympics. And if I make the Olympics, then people will think that's cool. And if they think that's cool and impressive, then they'll love me and like yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I thought I had to
Fun fact,
achieve.
there was one guy, just side comment, that went from tread and then became on the like Olympic
Oh, dude, I
bobsledding.
talked to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking Colin, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were actually
Wow.
talking. Yeah, awesome. By the way, like, that's congrats to him. Good shout out to Colin. Yeah,
Really, that was
no,
sick.
yeah, really sick, really cool. But I kept trying to like, do the same thing over and over. Try to find some external identity that I can attach to root my, worth in. And that led me to like this period where I took a whole year off of like baseball. I was just like in the gym, just doing jabroni shit, kind of like deluding myself into like thinking I'm gonna be a bobsledder. But I was like, oh, I don't really want to be a bobsledder. I'm gonna be this, trying to find something where, I could tell myself I was good enough. And it just took time, bro, for me to like realize like the most important thing is like, hey, bro, like you are not loved for like what you do, but for who you are. And so it's like you should try to figure out who you are first before you try to do anything. And it was similar from that transition from like moving to Cali to North Carolina and like doing all the things that I wanted to do, to what I've been doing now, where it's like don't do all the things that you want to do in hopes that achieving that will give you this like sense of like worth. Do that because you're deserving of doing the things that you enjoy in life, right? And so it's like this kind of like switch up, where it's like it's not about getting to the top of the mountain for like the top of the mountain's sake, but it's like, all right, choose a few things in life or one thing in life or whatever it fucking is, that will make you face yourself in ways that you wouldn't face yourself previously before, right? So you set yourself like a big goal, grandiose goal, whatever it is. I want to be a big leaguer. I want to have a successful business.
Yeah,
I
make
want
$1
to
million
get,
or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever the fuck it is. And like recognize it's not about like the ends of achieving the thing, but you just set this goal so you can like, again, be honest enough with yourself to like push yourself in ways that you wouldn't before. Because what's like the real value is not getting to the top of the mountain, becoming this big leaguer. Like that's great if it happens, or making this $1 million. That's awesome. It's an awesome byproduct. What matters is like what it takes for you to learn how to like climb to the top of the mountain or learn how to climb a mountain. So like all that is like building virtues, bro. So it's like you learn how to be disciplined, you learn how to be temperate, you learn how to be, honest, you learn how to like stand up for yourself and others. And like that's awesome. You learn how to deal with adversity. Now, like whether you climb to the top of the mountain or not, you learn the ability how to climb mountains. And whether if you get to that peak, you're able to broadly apply that to whatever other mountain in life that you choose and seek to climb. Instead of being like, you know what, I'm climbing this Mount fucking Everest. I'm going to do this no matter what, like what it takes. But the weather conditions are fucked up and they're not going to be clear for 100 years. And you keep trying to climb that same fucking mountain, and that's just be causing you like misery because you're stuck at the same point. And you're like, damn,
Mhm.
dude, like I keep trying, I keep working hard. Why can't I climb this fucking mountain? Like I must not be a good mountain climber. And it's just like, bro, like the conditions aren't just there for you, but you're actually a great climber. Once you like allow yourself to climb down that mountain, you can apply all those other techniques and skills to the other mountains of life, life, relationships, business, and so on and so forth. And that's something like I started to like realize for myself. And why, boom, that's my story. And I run a gym now, as you know, and
Yeah.
like a lot of young athletes that like struggle with the same things that I talked about that I struggle with, that, you know, you talk about that know you see with your own athletes. And it's
Oh,
just like, hey man, I have to become this like pro athlete. I have to be a D1 arm. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. It's,
absolutely.
so on and so forth. And it's just like, it's giving them the mountain analogy where it's just like, hey, it's great that you're striving for this, but no, that's not all that you are. And like the real sauce, the real benefit, dude, is like applying yourself in this thing so you can like build the virtues that you can like, fucking apply broadly to these other mountains. And like you'll see how like this is going to positively affect like your relationships. Like you're going to have a wife and kids one day, and like you're going to be a great father, and you're going to be a great husband, and that's going to be super important to you. And like you're going to have like your own job or business that you're going to like pour into, and you're going to be great at that. Or you're going to know how to at least like you know transverse the trek that it is to be successful in that. And you're going to learn how to like, yeah, not root your identity into those one things, into that like one single thing. So,
Mhm.
you know, we these experiences that we go through as like our athletes ourselves, like we can share as like coaches to our own athletes, and hopefully they can learn through our own mistakes so they don't have to touch fire themselves, and like go through like the whole, emotional and mental battle that like we've had.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's all about, and main reason why I even share everything that I do and interview people I do on the podcast, like, hey, learn from mistakes that some of us before have made, or maybe like we stumbled on a few nuggets here and there that we found worked. Take those and run with it. right? And I was just recently on a podcast not too long ago. A couple of the other athletes that I coach around the same time as you, and then now they're also coaches. And me seeing that is like, okay, hey, like I had so much more of an impact for those guys that it's more than just me impacting the people that I'm in touch with, but my impacting those dudes is going to impact so many more. And they're basically standing on my shoulders and continuing to, progress the game or progress
Hmm.
humanity in a sense, right? Where they're impacting young men to mold uh, a better society or in hopes for that, right? So,
No, I mean that's exactly what that is, man. Like you are this node and you create a ripple effect. Again, bro, like the care that you showed me as an individual, just like pouring into like, hey, you're more than a baseball player, Matt, just by that little simple action of like wanting to read my psychology and philosophy stuff, like back 3 fucking years ago, like that has a ripple effect on me where the athletes that I have, and it's just like, it's great if I get you better at your sport. That's like my primary job is like to get you better as an athlete. But it's like it's even more important that I like know that you're valued as this person. You can come in here and you can like feel safe enough to like talk about your life problems and we can help overcome that together. And it's just like then they can do that with their friends and their peers and like create this sphere of like, vulnerability and like being open and being honest and like not having to suppress like the tough shit that they deal with in life and actually like figure out like problem solutions to it. So it's like, yeah, bro, we're all like ripple effects. And if it's like, if we just care about like getting them better at the sport, the game itself, that's great if they're successful, but if they don't like learn those broader lessons or they don't learn how to like, I don't know, accept the person that they are and express that, it's just like, I don't know. I think we're doing a disservice in being like a mentor like, role in like industry. And I think what
sure.
you said is so fucking true. Like, we're literally having like this ripple effect, like making a better fucking community, like doing services to like humanity through just being authentic, honest, and like good to these people.
Absolutely. We hope that they're good ripple effects, right? Like we don't want to have any adverse effects. Not everyone's going to like you, but
Yeah.
you'd like to at least know, like, hey, this is for a greater good, greater purpose. That's deeper than the game itself. It's
Hmm.
more the brotherhood, or I talked about that with one of the pro guys I had on, where he was with Coastal Carolina, right? That team bond that they had when they first won the college World Series, they, you know, knew early on in the season they were like, hey, like we kind of have to take this upon ourselves because there's not going to be a superhero guy on the team that's going to put their team on their back. Like everybody has to chip in and do this. And you know um I hope that that's not a lost art in the game, because now people are being so incentivized for the clout, or like whatever they get on social media, or whatever views, likes, comments, that it kind of pulls away from where they currently are, right? And being present. And I think that's a huge thing that I think we need to instill and make sure that that's still in the game. Otherwise, it's you know, becomes a very individualized sport.
Yeah, no, I mean, well said. Like, if you do things from like egoism and self-centeredness, like what you get like long term is short-term gain, but like long-term misery.
Yeah.
Versus like if you do things like out of like this, it sounds like altruism, where it's just like, you know what, like this is more important than just me. Like, there's other people that this affects. I'm like on a team. Like, I'm deciding to like put that like above like my own like interests. Like, I think like that in turn like creates better success for you, but also like creates a better environment, better culture, and then also creates better success for like those as a whole. And yeah, dude, like the difference between like egoism and like altruism, man. Like that's like definitely like the distinction. Like what gives you like your feelings of value and like what motivates you. So
No doubt. No doubt.
yeah.
On some of it too, right? When you have that altruism perspective, you're like, hey, okay, I need to probably stop being selfish about what I want as you
Hmm.
get older, right? Like you have a wife, kids, things like that. You're like, I gotta zoom out even more here and see
Hmm.
like, okay, my actions of what I do. Like I may really enjoy what I do, but it may not pay the bills if I'm still, for an example, like a guy who's in pro ball, he's floating up and down minor league ball, still never really catching a break, right? It's like, hey, some point I have to provide for my family if I'm,
Hmm.
you know, you hear some of the horror stories of guys being in the minors for like 11 plus years. I don't hear much of it anymore, but like early on, you're like, hey, something's got to give, and you're going to be a former baseball player longer than you are a shorter amount of time to be a baseball player, and you'll be a former baseball player for probably 3/4 of your life if you live a full sustained life.
Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah, exactly, dude.
It's crazy to think about because something that you've only known since you were young, just kind of like putting this full circle and wrapping up, right? Like you've known about this for your entire life, and now you're expecting that to go away. I mean, you'll still be around it, right? Like the game's not going anywhere, but now you're trying to explore what your life is like outside of that thing that you've always had. Almost similar to, maybe a kid who has stayed in his hometown all the way through high school, never
Hmm.
left, anything like that. Hey, there's a lot more life to explore and
Hmm.
go look at, and not just be stuck in your hometown all the time.
Hmm. No, well said, man. Well said, brother.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, I think this has been an absolute awesome podcast. Is there anything else? I know I really want to plug all your stuff that you're putting out on X, all the threads. I think it was what's the website that you Substack
Ah,
have?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
plug
so
those.
all right. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate you having me on. Yeah, guys. So if you liked this podcast, which you should, because Gary's a great guy, um, check yeah. Also follow Gary and all of his stuff that he's doing. But if you like what I said or anything sparks some like interest, you can check me out on X. I post weekly threads on psychology and philosophy, and it goes into sports. Sometimes it just goes into life, relationships, and whatnot. They will grow as I grow and get further into academia. You can also, if you like more long form styles of writing that are more in depth, you can check me out on Substack. My X profile is Matt Silvera 33.
Yeah, I'll put all
And
that in the show notes for you guys if you're listening. Just go down
awesome.
and click on it.
And yeah, check me out there. If you want to train with us at Berserk Sports Performance, if you're in Southern California, we're in El Segundo, California. We have a pretty awesome culture, awesome vibe, gets electric, but we're also more than just like about being like the athlete itself. We're here for you as the person and help you level up as like a whole human being instead of just a baseball player, fighter, whatever you come into to train with. So yeah, check us out at Berserk SP, Berserk Sports Performance. Check out my Substack and my Twitter X account. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they'd change that. Who knows? I love
Exactly.
it. Thanks so much, Matt. And for those of you listening, stay in the zone.